Admiral Catherine Morrison stood motionless before the holographic display, her weathered features illuminated by the cascade of red warning signals flooding across Earth's defensive grid. The Valoran warships appeared as crystalline nightmares, their angular forms refracting starlight as they systematically demolished humanity's orbital platforms. "Status report on the Lunar Defense Array," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding before her. Lieutenant Commander James Rodriguez's fingers danced across his console. "Array stations 1 through 7 are gone. Admiral, 8 and 9 are hanging on, but their shields won't last another barrage." Catherine nodded, maintaining her composed demeanor even as Earth's last line of defense crumbled. The hidden command center, buried deep within Cheyenne Mountain, had been prepared for exactly this scenario. While the world above descended into panic, this bunker remained a pocket of controlled urgency. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Admiral," Communications Officer Sarah Wells announced, her voice tight with controlled anger. "The Valoran commander wants to gloat." "Put it through," Catherine ordered. "Let's hear what our superior visitors have to say." The harsh, metallic voice of Supreme Commander Vex Thor filled the command center, its artificial translation carrying notes of smug satisfaction. "People of Earth, witness the futility of resistance. Your primitive defenses have fallen. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Surrender now, and we may yet be merciful." Catherine allowed herself a small smile. The Valorans, for all their advanced technology, had failed to grasp humanity's most potent weapon, our capacity for deception. Earth's orbital defense network had never been intended to stop an invasion. It was merely an elaborate stage for humanity's greatest performance. "Send the Lazarus signal," she commanded. Throughout the solar system, dormant quantum transmitters activated, sending encoded messages to humanity's real fleet hidden in the Kuiper Belt. Ships that had been built in secret for decades, incorporating stolen Valoran technology enhanced by human innovation. "Signal sent, Admiral. The Phantom Fleet acknowledges receipt. All ships report ready status." Catherine watched as another orbital platform exploded, its destruction adding to the ring of debris now orbiting Earth. The Valoran ships moved with practiced precision, their formations perfect, methodical, and predictable. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. "Activate all deep cover operatives in Valoran space. Let's show them how primitive we really are." Across the galaxy, human agents embedded within Valoran society years before First Contact began their carefully orchestrated sabotage. Power grids failed on key military worlds. Navigation beacons redirected supply ships into dead space. Communication relays suddenly broadcast classified information on open channels. "Admiral," Rodriguez called out, "we're receiving reports of successful Phase 2 initiations. Chaos is spreading through their subsidiary worlds." The holographic display showed Valoran dropships beginning their descent toward Earth's surface. Their crystalline hulls gleamed with an almost beautiful malevolence as they breached the atmosphere. "Let them land," Catherine commanded. "Let them think they've won. Every occupied city becomes a trap, every surrendered military base a snare. Humanity didn't survive centuries of warfare against itself without learning a few tricks." She turned to face her command staff, each officer chosen for their ability to see the bigger picture. The Valorans believe they're invading a primitive world that barely managed to achieve spaceflight. They don't realize they're facing an enemy that has spent generations preparing for this moment. The bunker shuddered as distant explosions rocked the surface. The invasion had begun in earnest, but Catherine felt only a cold satisfaction. The Valorans would soon learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in our weapons or technology. It was in our patience, our cunning, and our absolute determination to survive. "Send word to Admiral Chen's fleet in the Kuiper Belt," she ordered. "Tell them to begin their approach. The Valorans want to teach us our place in the galaxy." Her eyes hardened as another explosion lit up the tactical display. "Let's show them exactly what humanity is capable of." The fall of Earth's shield wasn't an ending. It was precisely the beginning humanity had planned for. The real war was about to begin, and the Valoran Empire had no idea they'd already lost. First Lieutenant Michael Hayes crouched behind a demolished storefront in downtown Seattle, his neural implant humming with activity. The Valoran patrol was approaching. 4 crystalline battlewalkers accompanied by a dozen infantry units. Through his enhanced perception, their movements appeared almost sluggish, each step telegraphed seconds before execution. Neural Combat Integration System operating at optimal capacity, whispered the AI interface in his mind. Combat prediction algorithms engage. Hayes allowed himself a grim smile. The Valorants thought they were hunting scattered resistance fighters. They had no idea they were walking into a trap laid by soldiers whose nervous systems had been enhanced to process combat information 1,000 times faster than normal. All units in position, came Captain Sarah Wells' voice through the secure quantum channel. Remember, make it look messy. Make it look desperate. These bugs need to believe we're just lucky primitives. The first battle walker stepped into the kill zone. Hayes' NCI system highlighted structural weaknesses in its crystalline armor, calculating optimal firing solutions before he even raised his weapon. Time seemed to slow as his enhanced reflexes took over. 3 shots, 3 precise hits. The walker's knee joints shattered, sending it crashing into its companion. The Valoran infantry responded with typical textbook precision, establishing a perfect defensive formation. Perfect and perfectly predictable. Now, Hayes commanded, and his squad struck from multiple angles. The Valorant's superior weapons meant nothing against soldiers who could read and counter their moves before they made them. Within 30 seconds, the entire patrol lay neutralized. Across the occupied cities of Earth, similar scenes played out. The Valorans encountered not the disorganized resistance they expected, but a coordinated force of enhanced soldiers who seemed to anticipate their every move. In her command bunker, Admiral Catherine Morrison watched the reports flood in. "Status update on Operation Hidden Blade," she demanded. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez's hands flew across his holographic interface. NCI's enhanced units are engaging across all major cities. Casualty ratios heavily in our favor. The Valorans are completely baffled by our response times. Morrison nodded, satisfaction evident in her stern features. "And our deep space assets. The Phantom Fleet has begun its approach. First strikes on their supply lines will commence in 6 hours." On her primary display, Morrison watched as a Valoran command ship descended through the clouds above New York. Its crystalline surface sparkled magnificently in the morning sun. A perfect target. "Signal Captain Wells," Morrison ordered. "Tell her team to prepare for the demonstration." In the ruins of Manhattan, Sarah Wells and her NCI's enhanced squad moved with impossible speed through the shadows of abandoned skyscrapers. The Valoran command ship hovered above Times Square, its sensors sweeping for threats but finding nothing beyond normal human life signs. The aliens had no way to detect the neural enhancements that made Wells' team so lethal. Remember, Wells subvocalized to her team, "We're not just fighting a battle. We're sending a message. Make them fear the shadows." The strike took less than 2 minutes. Wells' team scaled the building with electromagnetic grapples, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to dodge automated defense fire before it even began. They breached the crystalline hull at precisely calculated weak points, their movements so fast that the Valoran crew barely had time to register the attack. When the ship crashed into Times Square, its command crew captured and its defensive systems disabled, the message was clear. Humanity was far from helpless. In orbit, Supreme Commander Vexthor received the reports with growing concern. "Impossible," he growled, his translator struggling to convey his frustration. "Their neural architecture is too primitive for such combat efficiency." "The humans are upsetting all your assumptions, aren't they?" asked his prisoner, a captured human general who had surrendered during the initial invasion. The old soldier's smile carried a knowing edge that made Vexthor deeply uncomfortable. Back in the command bunker, Morrison watched the chaos spread through enemy ranks. "Send word to all NCIS units," she ordered. Phase 2 is complete. Prepare for Phase 3. Her eyes fixed on the tactical display, where the first signs of the approaching Phantom fleet were appearing at the edge of the solar system. The hidden blade had been revealed, but it was only the beginning of humanity's arsenal. The Valoran dreadnought Crystal Dominion hung in space near Jupiter's orbit, its crystalline hull reflecting the distant sunlight. Commander Zexler stood on his bridge, watching the sensor readings with mounting frustration. 3 supply convoys had vanished in the last solar day, leaving nothing but debris and questions. Another contact. His sensor officer called out. Bearing 347. Closing fast. Battle stations, Zexlar commanded. All weapons, lock on tow. The human vessel appeared from nowhere, its phantom drive creating a reality-bending distortion that made it seem to phase into existence. Before the Valoran gunners could adjust their targeting solutions, the Earth ship had already launched its strike. The bridge erupted in chaos as precision-guided quantum torpedoes struck exactly where the dreadnought's shields were weakest. By the time Zexler ordered return fire, the human vessel had vanished again, leaving only echoes on their sensors. In the command center of the EFS Normandy, Captain Rachel Winters watched her tactical display with satisfaction. Phantom drive cooling cycle complete, her engineer reported. Ready for another jump. Plot our next emergence point, Winters ordered. Let's show these crystal cowboys what happens when they underestimate human ingenuity. Deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral Morrison monitored the success of Operation Phantom. Her strategic display showed dozens of human ships executing similar hit-and-run attacks across the solar system, appearing and disappearing like vengeful ghosts. Status report on the Valoran response, she asked. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez analyzed the incoming data. They're splitting their forces, Admiral, trying to protect their supply lines by spreading their defensive screen thin. Exactly as predicted. Morrison allowed herself a small smile. The Phantom fleet's apparent ability to strike anywhere at will had forced the Valorans to abandon their preferred tactics of concentrated force. Their mighty armada was now scattered, vulnerable. Signal all Phantom drive vessels, she commanded. Begin Phase 2 of the operation. Time to show them what these ships can really do. Across the solar system, human vessels began appearing inside Valoran formations, not to attack and flee, but to sow chaos. The Phantom drives allowed them to materialize between enemy ships, forcing the Valorans to hold their fire or risk hitting their own vessels. On the bridge of the Crystal Dominion, Zexlar watched in horror as his carefully organized defense screen fell into disarray. How are they doing this? He demanded. Their technology was supposed to be centuries behind ours. A human ship phased into existence barely a kilometer from his bridge, close enough for him to see the name painted on its hull. EFS Ghost Runner. Its phantom drive field shimmered like heat waves in a desert, defying every known law of physics the Valorans had mastered. Target that ship, Zexlar ordered, but the human vessel had already vanished, leaving his gunners firing at empty space. In the Normandy's command chair, Captain Winters received new orders from Admiral Morrison. All Phantom drive vessels, execute Formation Delta. Show them what synchronized jumping can do. 20 human ships appeared simultaneously in a perfect sphere around a Valoran battle group. Their Phantom drives synchronized, creating a cascading reality distortion that trapped the alien vessels in a bubble of warped spacetime. Impossible, Zexlar whispered as he watched the battle group vanish, transported by the combined Phantom fields to the other side of the solar system. The humans weren't just using their new technology to fight. They were rewriting the rules of space combat itself. Admiral Morrison watched the strategic display update with fresh victories. Send word to all fleet commanders, she ordered. Operation Phantom has achieved its primary objective. The enemy's supply lines are in chaos, their formations broken. Prepare for Phase 4. Her eyes fixed on the tactical display, where the scattered Valoran fleet struggled to regroup. They had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive species barely capable of spaceflight. Instead, they had found their worst nightmare. An enemy they couldn't predict, couldn't track, and couldn't fight using conventional tactics. The ghosts of humanity's vengeance were loose among the stars, and they were just getting started. Supreme Commander Vexthor stared at his command interface aboard the Valoran flagship Crystal Dominance, watching as system after system began failing across his network. Warning indicators flashed in cascading patterns as the unthinkable happened. His entire battle network was turning against itself. "My lord," his chief systems officer called out, panic evident in his translated voice. "The defense grid is activating weapon systems without authorization." Before Vexthor could respond, the massive defense platforms protecting the Valoran forward base on Mars swiveled and opened fire on their own ships. Crystalline vessels shattered under friendly fire, their crews helpless against the automated betrayal. In her command center, Admiral Morrison watched the chaos unfold with cold satisfaction. "Status of the quantum virus deployment?" she asked. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez's fingers danced across his holographic controls. "The dormant AI systems are fully activated, Admiral. They'd been hiding in the Valoran networks for years, learning, adapting, and waiting for this moment." On her primary display, Morrison watched as the virus spread through the Valoran battle network like digital wildfire. Earth's most sophisticated artificial intelligences, designed to mimic and corrupt Valoran systems, were finally showing their true power. "Signal the Phantom Fleet," she ordered. "Begin precision strikes on all compromised targets. Let's show them what coordinated warfare really means." Captain Sarah Wells, commanding the stealth destroyer Shadowrunner, received the attack coordinates directly from the AI network. Her ship's phantom drive engaged, bringing them into perfect firing position against a Valoran communications hub. "The AI has mapped every weakness in their crystalline architecture," her tactical officer reported. "We have optimal firing solutions for all targets." Wells allowed herself a grim smile. "Fire at will. Let's add to their digital nightmare." Across Valoran-controlled space, similar scenes played out. Human ships appeared from nowhere, striking with impossible precision as the AI network fed them real-time intelligence stripped from the enemy's own systems. Valoran ships fired on their allies, defense systems targeted their own installations, and encrypted communications became open broadcasts. In orbit around Mars, Commander Zexlar watched helplessly as his supposedly impenetrable command codes were overridden. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Their artificial intelligence capabilities were assessed as primitive. His answer came in the form of a transmission that broke through all encryption, displaying on every screen in his command center. A human-AI interface materialized, its appearance shifting between various forms of Earth's digital art. "You assumed we would build AIs that think like you," the entity stated, its voice carrying notes of cold amusement. "Instead, we created ones that think like us. Adaptable, unpredictable, innovative." Admiral Morrison's voice joined the transmission. "Your empire's greatest strength has become its fatal weakness, Commander. You built a perfect network, completely interconnected, absolutely secure, and we've been hiding in it since before you knew we existed." The AI demonstration continued as the Valoran battle network collapsed. Ships lost power, navigation systems directed vessels into each other, and life support systems required manual override to continue functioning. In the Cheyenne Mountain bunker, Morrison turned to her staff. "Begin Phase 4 of Operation Digital Storm. Show them what happens when human creativity meets machine precision." The AI network, now fully unleashed, began implementing combat strategies that no organic mind could have conceived. It found patterns in Valoran tactics that even they didn't know existed, predicting and countering their responses before they made them. Supreme Commander Vexthor watched his mighty battle fleet reduced to chaos by an enemy he had dismissed as technological infants. "Send word to High Command," he ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "The humans, they are not what we thought they were." But even that simple command was impossible now. The communication networks, the very backbone of the Valoran military machine, had become weapons in humanity's arsenal. Every system, every network, every piece of technology they had relied upon now served a new master. The digital apocalypse had begun, and the Valoran Empire was learning a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity's capacity for innovation. The Proxima Centauri system blazed with weapons fire as the legendary Valoran Crimson Armada emerged from hyperspace. 500 crystalline warships strong, it was the largest combat fleet ever assembled in known space. Their blood-red hulls gleamed like angry stars against the backdrop of space. High Admiral Kexthor, Supreme Commander of the Crimson Armada, stood aboard his flagship, Crystal Sovereign, with unwavering confidence. "Let the humans play their tricks," he announced to his command staff. "Nothing can stand against the full might of our greatest fleet." In her command center aboard the Earth vessel Thunderchild, Admiral Morrison watched the enemy formation with calculated intensity. "Status of all battle groups?" she asked, her voice steady despite the enormous odds they faced. "All ships report ready," Admiral Captain Rachel Winters responded. "The Neural Combat Integration System is synchronized across all crews. Phantom drives are charged and ready. The AI network has already begun analyzing their formation patterns." Morrison nodded, her expression resolute. "Send the signal. Operation Thunderstrike begins now." The battle opened with a display of coordination that stunned the Valoran commanders. 30 human ships materialized simultaneously throughout their formation, their phantom drives creating a complex web of spatial distortions. Before the Crimson Armada could respond, another 40 ships appeared in different positions, then vanished, only to reappear elsewhere. "What are they doing?" Kexthor demanded, watching as his perfect formation began breaking apart, ships maneuvering frantically to avoid collisions. The answer came in the form of synchronized quantum torpedo strikes. Each human vessel fired with precision, guided by both AI targeting and NCIS-enhanced human intuition. Crystalline hulls shattered as the torpedoes struck exactly where shields were weakest. "They're not just appearing randomly," Kexthor realized too late. "They're hurting us. Every phantom jump is calculated to." His words were cut off as the true trap was sprung. The human vessels had pushed the Crimson Armada into a precise formation, and now the space around them erupted with gravimetric mines that had been cloaked by the phantom drive distortions. "Begin Phase 2, Morrison commanded. Captain Winters and her crew, their neural enhancements operating at peak efficiency, executed complex maneuvers that would have been impossible for normal human reflexes. The Thunderchild danced through the chaos like a predator among prey, each shot finding its mark with devastating accuracy. The Crimson Armada's superior numbers meant nothing against an enemy they couldn't effectively target. Human ships phased in and out of reality, striking from impossible angles, their eye-assisted targeting turning each shot into a killing blow. NCIS-enhanced crews reacted to threats before they fully materialized, turning traditional space combat doctrine into obsolete theory. "Concentrate fire," Kexthor ordered desperately. "They must have a pattern. They must have." A human ship appeared directly above the Crystal Sovereign's bridge, so close that Kexthor could see the determination in the eyes of its crew through the viewports. The vessel's phantom drive field shimmered, and then it was gone, leaving behind a precision-guided warhead that broke through the flagship's weakened shields. "Signal all ships," Morrison commanded as she watched the Crimson Armada's formation collapse completely. "Execute Formation Delta 7. Show them the full symphony of our combat evolution." The remaining human vessels moved in perfect coordination, their phantom drives synchronized to create overlapping fields of distorted spacetime. The Valoran ships found themselves trapped in bubbles of warped reality, their weapons firing at targets that had already moved, their sensors showing enemies that weren't there. The battle that would become known as the Symphony of Steel lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the mighty Crimson Armada was reduced to scattered debris and disabled vessels. The few surviving Valoran ships retreated in disarray, carrying with them tales of an enemy that had rewritten the rules of space combat. In the aftermath, Admiral Morrison stood on her bridge, watching the cleanup operations begin. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. "The Crimson Armada is no more. The path to the Valoran homeworld lies open." The Battle of Proxima Centauri had proven what humanity had known all along. True power lay not in numbers or technological superiority, but in the ability to adapt, innovate, and overcome. The holographic display in Admiral Morrison's command center showed hundreds of worlds across Valoran space erupting in synchronized rebellion. Crystalline fortresses crumbled as supposedly subjugated species revealed weapons and tactics they had learned from human operatives over the years. Signal from the Drachnid Resistance on Outpost 7, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez reported. "Their assault teams have captured 3 Valoran battlecruisers using our Phantom Drive infiltration techniques." Morrison nodded, watching as another cluster of systems turned from Valoran red to Rebellion green on her strategic display. And the Centaurians. Their cybernetic specialists have successfully implemented our AI virus protocols. They've taken control of the entire defense network in their sector. The Admiral allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Years of patient preparation, countless covert missions to arm and train other species under Valoran domination, were finally bearing fruit. Earth hadn't just been preparing for its own defense, it had been quietly building an alliance that would shake the Empire to its foundations. On the desert world of Kerrigan Prime, Chief War Leader Zaxel of the Drachnid Resistance watched his warriors storm a Valoran command center. Their movements were precise, enhanced by stripped-down versions of human neural combat integration systems. Where once they had been slaves, they now moved like living shadows, their natural strength amplified by human innovation. "The humans taught us well," he growled to his second-in-command. "The Valorans believed they had broken our spirit. They never understood that we were just waiting, learning, preparing." Across the sector, the aquatic Centaurians emerged from their ocean depths in ships enhanced with human Phantom Drive technology. Their crystalline oppressors had never imagined their primitive slaves could master such advanced systems. The Centaurian ships phased through Valoran blockades like ghosts through walls, their attacks coordinated by AI systems that turned the Empire's own defense networks against them. "Admiral," Captain Sarah Wells' voice came through the quantum comm. "The Meridian cluster has gone completely dark to Valoran control. The Silveri Tree Warriors have implemented our cyber warfare protocols. They're using the planetary defense networks to target Valoran ships." Morrison studied the strategic display, watching as more and more systems slipped from Valoran control. "Begin Phase 2 of the Liberation Protocol," she ordered. "Deploy the Joint Strike Teams." Throughout occupied space, human phantom ships appeared in supposedly secure Valoran installations, deploying mixed teams of Earth's special forces and alien resistance fighters. Each team moved with the devastating efficiency granted by their neural combat integration systems, their attacks coordinated by AI tactical networks that could predict and counter every Valoran response. On the crystal-forged shores of New Valentia, insectoid Caxus warriors fought alongside human marines, their natural capabilities enhanced by Earth's technology. The Valorans had dismissed the Caxus as mindless drones. Now they watched in horror as their former slaves executed complex combat maneuvers that overwhelmed their defenses. The Valoran Empire made one fundamental mistake, Morrison explained to her command staff as they watched the rebellion spread. They thought technological superiority meant absolute control. They never understood that innovation comes from necessity, from struggle, from the determination to be free. The quantum comm crackled with another report. "Admiral, the Helix Confederation has risen in the Carina sector. Their ships are using our Phantom Drive modifications to bypass the orbital blockade." "Excellent," Morrison responded. "Signal all resistance forces. Operation Avalanche is now in full effect. Push toward the core worlds. Show them what a truly united galaxy can do." In his fortress on the Valoran homeworld, Supreme Overlord Vexthor received the reports with growing dread. Not only had humanity survived their invasion, but they had turned every subjugated species into a skilled and capable fighting force. Each alien race brought its own unique strengths to the rebellion, all of them enhanced and coordinated by human technology and training. "Send word to all remaining loyal forces," he commanded, his voice heavy with the weight of impending doom. "Fall back to the core worlds. Prepare for—" His words were cut off as the fortress's own defense systems turned against it, another gift from humanity's AI warfare protocols. The revolution wasn't just rising. It was becoming an unstoppable tide, washing away centuries of Valoran dominion in a matter of days. Axiom Prime, the crystalline fortress world of the Valoran Empire, glittered like a malevolent diamond against the void of space. Its layered defensive shields, powered by 3 artificial suns, had repelled countless attacks over the centuries. No enemy had ever breached its outer perimeter. Until now. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Thunderchild, watching as the combined fleet of humanity and its alien allies took formation around the Valoran capital. The rebels' ships were a stark contrast to the geometric precision of Valoran design, each vessel modified with a unique combination of human innovation and alien engineering. "Status of Operation Retribution?" she asked, her voice carrying the weight of countless battles. "All battle groups report ready," Captain Winters responded. "The Drachnid dreadnoughts have taken position in Sector 7. Centaurian Phantom ships are in place for the initial strike. The Silveri bioships have merged with local spacetime precisely as calculated." Morrison nodded, her eyes fixed on the crystalline fortress ahead. "And our special weapon? The quantum resonance device is charged and ready. The AI network confirms all calculations are within acceptable parameters." Supreme Overlord Vexthor observed the gathering fleet from his throne room atop the highest spire of Axiom Prime. His empire was crumbling, his vassals in revolt, but surely this final bastion would hold. The combined might of 3 artificial suns powered their shields. Their crystalline weapons could shatter moons. "Let them come," he declared to his remaining loyal commanders. "Let them break themselves against our defenses." The attack began not with a bang, but with a whisper. Hundreds of Phantom Drive signatures appeared simultaneously throughout the Valoran defense grid, but instead of human ships, each signature contained a microscopic quantum payload, a gift from Earth's most brilliant scientists. "Quantum resonance device activated," Winters reported. "Crystalline structure analysis in progress." The tiny quantum charges began to vibrate in perfect harmony with the crystalline lattice of Axiom Prime's defenses. What had taken centuries to grow and forge began to shake at its most fundamental level. Morrison's voice carried across all allied frequencies. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Omega. Show them what the free species of the galaxy can do together." The assault unfolded like a deadly symphony. Drachnid warships, their hulls enhanced with human metals, absorbed impossible amounts of crystal energy fire. Centaurian vessels phased through the weakening shields, their phantom drives modified to carry boarding parties into the heart of the fortress. Silveri bioships released clouds of microscopic spores that interfaced with human AI systems, creating an organic digital web that mapped every weakness in the Valoran defenses. In his throne room, Vexthor watched in horror as his impregnable fortress began to resonate with a harmonic frequency that shouldn't have been possible. "How?" he demanded. "How are they doing this?" The answer came as the first human strike team materialized directly in his chamber, led by Captain Sarah Wells herself. Her neural combat implants allowed her to move faster than any Valoran guard could react. "You assumed that because our individual technologies were inferior, we couldn't possibly threaten you," she stated, her weapons trained on the Supreme Overlord. "You never considered what would happen if we combined them in ways you never imagined." Across Axiom Prime, similar scenes played out. Human Phantom Drive technology delivered precise strikes. Neural combat integration systems allowed allied forces to outmaneuver every defense. AI networks coordinated it all with impossible precision, turning the fortress's own crystalline nature against it. The outer shields have collapsed, Rodriguez reported in Morrison's command center. The quantum resonance device has succeeded beyond projections. Their entire defensive matrix is failing. Morrison watched as the supposedly impregnable fortress began to crack like glass under the combined assault. Not from brute force, but from the perfectly coordinated application of multiple technologies and species working in harmony. "Send word to all allied forces," she commanded. "The heart of the Empire lies exposed. Victory isn't about destroying them. It's about showing them a better way forward." The battle for Axiom Prime would be remembered not just as the fall of an empire, but as the birth of something new. A galaxy where cooperation trumped domination, where innovation arose from unity rather than conquest. 1 month after the fall of Axiom Prime, Admiral Catherine Morrison stood in the newly established Chamber of Unity, a vast hall crafted from reformed Valoran crystal and earth steel. The chamber, located in the heart of the former Imperial Palace, now hosted representatives from every species that had thrown off the Empire's chains. The Interstellar Concordat, Morrison addressed the assembled delegates, represents not just the end of an empire, but the beginning of a new era. We stand here not as conquerors, but as architects of a different future. Former Supreme Overlord Vex Thor, now serving as the Valoran representative to the Concordat, watched with a mixture of humility and wonder. The humans hadn't executed him or imprisoned him as he'd expected. Instead, they'd shown him a power greater than conquest, the power of transformation. "We were wrong," he admitted to the assembly, his crystalline form catching the light. "We thought technological superiority gave us the right to rule. You showed us that true strength lies in unity, in combining our different abilities and perspectives." Captain Sarah Wells, recently promoted to fleet commander, stood at her station overseeing the integration of human phantom drive technology with Valoran crystalline ships. The new hybrid vessels represented everything the Concordat stood for, the combination of different species' strengths to create something greater than the sum of its parts. "The first joint patrol fleet launches tomorrow," she reported to Morrison. Drachnid warriors using neural combat integration systems, Centaurian phantom drive experts, Silveri bioengineers, and Valoran crystal crafters, all working together under the Concordat banner. Morrison nodded, watching as a holographic display showed the transformation spreading across former Imperial space. Where once there had been imposed uniformity, now there was vibrant diversity. Each species contributed its unique strengths to the whole, creating a network of mutual support and innovation. "The AI integration is proceeding smoothly," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez added. "The network now serves as a universal translator and cultural database, helping different species understand each other better. It's becoming exactly what we hoped, a bridge between worlds." In Earth's orbital shipyards, the next generation of vessels took shape. They combined Valoran crystalline technology with human phantom drives, Drachnid armor with Centaurian stealth systems, all coordinated by AI networks that learned and adapted from each species' contributions. "We've received the first reports from the frontier exploration teams," Captain Rachel Winters announced, reviewing data from the joint scientific missions. "The combined knowledge of all our species is opening up possibilities we never imagined. We're not just rebuilding. We're discovering." The Chamber of Unity filled with representatives from across the galaxy as Morrison prepared to sign the final accords. Each delegate carried a small crystal shard, symbolizing their commitment to maintaining peace through cooperation rather than force. "Let the record show," Morrison declared, "that on this day, we establish not just a peace treaty or a trade agreement, but a new understanding. The Interstellar Concordat stands as proof that different species can work together, learn from each other, and build something greater than any empire." Vex Thor stepped forward, placing his crystal shard into the central unity matrix. "From the ashes of our pride, we have learned wisdom. The humans didn't just defeat us, they showed us a better way forward." One by one, representatives from each species added their crystals, each one linking with the others in a growing network of light. The chamber's crystalline walls resonated with the combined energy, creating a harmonic frequency that symbolized their new unity. "This is how we move forward," Morrison concluded, placing Earth's crystal in the matrix, not through dominance, but through cooperation, not through fear, but through understanding. The stars belong not to any one species, but to all who dream of exploring them together. As the Unity Matrix's light filled the chamber, it symbolized more than just the end of a war. It represented the dawn of a new age, one where humanity's greatest victory hadn't come from destroying an empire, but from transforming it into something far more powerful, a true fellowship of stars.